Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the long overdue Parts Part 3. This is the finale of the internal parts series. So, and really, in my opinion, perhaps the most important one. So, just to review the first two, since it's been a while, what I unpacked in the first two was that we are all multiple. We don't all have multiple personality disorder, but we're all multiple. We're all composed of these different psychological parts, which is built into our common language. Part of me wants this, part of me wants that. On the one hand, I think this, on the other hand, I think that. All of those point to the fact that we have this multiplicity of mind. So today we're going to be talking about the you that's not a part. So the you that's not a part. What is the you that is in fact not a part at all? Which I think is one of the delightful ways of looking at this psychological model of the mind, is that it points back to something deeper, a deeper essence within us, and allows us to connect with that in ways that that other more conventional psychological approaches just, well, don't. And so when I say that there's a you that's not a part, here's a way to understand it. Our identification with the various parts of ourselves is constantly changing. It's constantly shifting. So a part of me might come in and want to exercise. Another one might come in and say, no, you don't have the energy. This is just a trivial example. All day long, these various parts are coming in and kind of getting identified with. Another one comes along and gets identified with. And yet, we don't turn into a new person every single time this happens. It's not like we reboot as a new individual with amnesia of what just happened for the remainder of our lives, for the remainder and all of the preceding part of our lives. And another clue here is that we can point back to ourselves at a different age and still identify that that was us. So I would say, yeah, when I was in 6th grade, I loved going outside and, you know, playing in the mud and building up mud fortresses. And I see that and identify that as me, despite that all of this time has passed. All of these different psychological parts themselves have changed so much. So there is this continuity. There's this continuity. And how do we account for that? So in the whole language of internal parts, this is known as self with a capital S, self. Self or self energy. And so what is self? It is the us that's not a part. It is the us that is always ever present. It is the us that has been there since the beginning of our psychological life and carries through all the way to the end, uninterrupted. So whatever it is, it has this constancy. And we can use a lot of different words to describe the quality of this capital S self. Some people would describe it as a higher self, a greater self, a higher power, God, the quantum field, awareness, consciousness, limitlessness. The word really doesn't matter. We're pointing to the fact of the existence of this self that's not a part. And what is so beautiful about this is that it is this self, this capital S self, that is the healing element in working with the various aspects of our parts. As we talked about before, that there is, when we're relating to our parts differently, we're really relating from a place of genuine like compassion and curiosity, without an agenda, without a motive. Um, related from Relating from an awake, clear awareness that doesn't take sides, that doesn't shift, that doesn't change, um, and that loves all the parts of us equally, um, which is, in my experience, just an incredibly beautiful, powerful thing. And and why is that? Well, for me, in my experience, we are able to marry. If you look at various kinds of wisdom paths, spiritual paths, meditative paths, is that we're able in this relationship to marry the impersonal, the vast, open, impersonal us, with the very, very personal and specific, the parts of us. We're able to bring this vastness to relate to a very specific part, and to hold that part, to hold its pain. And within that space and within that relationship, imagine this: uh, if you're a part, if you're a person and are related to something that is vast and open and caring and loving and has no agenda and has no need for you to change, um, what happens? There is a relaxation, there is a letting go, there is the ability to unload baggage, to be heard, to release, and to come back into alignment with really who we really are, before we get fractured in all of these different ways with the pain and the suffering and the difficulty that comes our way. And so the we can bring this us, this self that's not a part, to love all of the parts of us. And in that loving, in that creating of an open relationship, what we get is freedom, ultimately. Freedom for all of the parts to be themselves. Freedom for all of them to be themselves without being judged, criticized, shamed, shoved in a corner, any of it. There is an immense container of safety within which all of these parts can exist, can relate, and can be heard. And in our psychological life, I just can't think of anything better or more precious than that. And so, while parts work for me is one element of what I bring into the work that I've done with myself or clients, it's so singularly powerful because of that ability to marry what is so often impersonal. If we look at meditation, it's so impersonal. We're just looking at the contents of the mind and watching them go by. That is the impersonal. The purely personal is the psychological world, where all we're looking at is our parts coming by. And here we're able to basically bring one to meet the other. And in that relationship, magic happens. That's just the most succinct way that I can put it. So that really from my heart is all I have to share on parts. This is parts, part 3. And that's what I got. So I look forward to hearing from you. I always love talking about this and exploring it. It's magical. All right. Much love. Bye-bye.